this tutorial is about how to answer two-step problems and how to do tape diagrams. So we're going to look at an example that the students did on their homework for lesson 17 for our first unit. Okay, it says draw a tape diagram to represent each problem. Use numbers to solve and write your answer as a statement. Okay, so this question has two parts. It wants you to draw as a tape diagram, solve it, but you have to make sure that your answer is written in a complete sentence. So it says Gavin has 1,094 toy building blocks. Avery only has 816 toy building blocks. How many more building blocks does Gavin have? So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to pull this down into our submission box, and we are going to open it up with the advanced editing tool. Okay, so I'm going to use my shapes to draw my tape diagram, and I'm going to do one a little bit longer because I know that Gavin had 1,094 building blocks. Okay, and then I'm going to add another rectangle right near his, and it's going to be a little bit smaller because I know that Avery had 816 building blocks. Okay, so I'm going to fill in the numbers for both of them. So we had 1,094 for Gavin. And I can label his with a G so that I know it was for Gavin. Okay, then I can also fill in Avery that she had 816. Okay, and I'm going to mark that with an A for Avery. Okay, so if I go back to my question, it says, how many more building blocks does Gavin have? So what I need to know is about this space where the two tape diagrams do not line up. So I'm going to draw my line and put a question mark there. Okay, so now that I have my tape diagram drawn, I can go ahead and do my subtraction. So I'm going to subtract. I'm going to do 1,094 minus 816. Okay, I cannot take 6 away from 4, so I need to borrow from my tens place. So my 9 becomes an 8. My 4 in the ones place is now 14. So 14 minus 6 is 8. Okay, I can take 1 away from 8, and that will be 7. I cannot take 8 away from 0, so I need to borrow from my next place value, which is the thousands place. So now I have 10 in my hundreds place, so 10 hundreds minus 8 hundreds would be 200. So 278 would be the difference. So I'm going to select on my text, and I'm going to answer because I know that the question said to answer with a statement. Okay, so I'm going to type that Gavin has 278 more blocks than Avery. Oh, and because it went off the page, I'm just going to push enter so it drops down to another line. Avery. Okay, and that is all I had to do for that question. So I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. Okay, so everything that I just did is in my submission box. Okay, we're going to look at one more problem. We will look at number 2. Number 2 says the same thing. Draw a tape diagram to represent each problem and use numbers to solve and write your answer as a statement. So container B holds 2,391 liters of water. Together, container A and container B hold 11,875 liters of water. How many more liters of water does container A hold than container B? Okay, so again, this time it told us our total and how much one container had, but it did not tell us how much the other container had. We're going to go ahead and get started with our tape diagram, pulling our drawing down into our box, and we're going to open up our advanced editing. Okay, my tape diagram for this one is going to look very similar to the first one that I did, except this time it is going to include a total. Okay, so I'm going to draw my tape diagram for container A. Okay, it is reasonable to say that container A held a lot more than container B because our total was 11,875, but container B only held 2,391. So I'm going to make my tape for container B a lot smaller than I did for container A. Okay, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to label them so that I remember which one it was. So I'm going to draw or write that this top one is container A. Okay, and this bottom one's container B, and I'm going to fill in all of the information that I do know. I know that container B has, and I'm going to use my text box for this one, has, if it will allow me to, it might not. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to draw instead. I'll draw inside the box. So it has 2,391. Okay, I do not know how much container A holds, but I do know that I have a total. So I'm going to put this little bracket. It kind of looks like a sideways bird if you're drawing one, like a bird flying in the sky. Okay, and I'm going to label that as my total. So 11,875 liters. Okay, so my first step is to figure out how much container A holds. We have to figure out how much container A holds so that we can figure out how much bigger it is than container B. So in order to do that, we are going to do 11,875 minus 2,391. And give me just a second to write my numbers in. 2,391, and I made sure I lined up my place values. Okay, I can take 1 away from 5, so I'm going to solve that, and that is 4. I cannot take 9 away from 7, so I need to go to my hundreds place to borrow. So I'm going to cross out my 8, and I'm going to write a 7 over top because I'm borrowing 1 full group. So now I have 17 minus 9 equals 8. Okay, I can take 3 away from 7, and that would be 4. Okay, now I'm going to put my comma because I know that I have my group of 3. My 3 place values, I'm going to put my comma. I cannot take 2 away from 1, so I'm going to go to my next highest place value. I'm going to borrow, and there's only 1 there, so now it's going to be a 0. In my thousands place, though, there are now 11 thousands. So 11 minus 2 is 9. So this is for container A. So this is how much container A holds. And I'm just going to label that so I don't forget. So I'm going to put container A. Okay, so our next part is now to figure out how much bigger or how much more container A holds than container B. So now I'm going to take the amount that I got for container A. So my 9,484 minus 2,391. Okay, I can take 1 away from 4. I know that is 3. I cannot take 9 away from 8. So I need to borrow. So I'm going to go over to the 10 or over to the hundreds place and I'm going to borrow. My 4 is now a 3. Okay, my 8 is now 18. So 18 minus 9 is 9. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, and here is my comma because I'm grouping together my 3 place values. 9 minus 2 is 7. Okay, so I'm going to go back over and I am going to insert my little text box and I'm going to answer this using my statement. So container, okay, and I'm going to make my size a little bit smaller so that it can fit on my screen. So container A holds 7,093 liters more than container B. Okay, and I'm going to save my changes. And all of my work is in my box. If I did not want to type my answer there, but I had to do my tape diagram, I could click next to where I put my picture. Okay, and it should, there we go, click right next to it. And then you can type underneath. So container A holds 7,093 liters more than container B. Okay, so all of my work is there for me, just like in problem number 1.